Epazote is an annual aromatic herb native to Central and South America and to southern Mexico. It was grown by the Aztecs and the Mayans for medicinal and culinary purposes and is grown for those same purposes in traditional Mexican gardens today. Epazote has a very strong aroma. I think it smells kind of like petroleum. I know that probably doesn't sound too appetizing, but it actually adds a really unique and delicious flavor to a lot of different Mexican dishes. Epazote is even thought to have anti-flatulent properties, so go ahead and add it to that big pot of beans you're making and eat that bowl with peace of mind. I grew Epazote in my garden for the first time last season, and I think it's a really cool plant. It has these dark green, narrow, serrated leaves. I find it's happy as a spring herb, but it readily bolts once the temperatures here in Tucson heat up. In the summer and fall, tiny little green flowers form on the tips of these really tall branches, and if let go, it will readily reseed everywhere. So those thousands of tiny little seeds will give you lots of new plants the following spring. So definitely put it in a place where it's either in a container or in a very small space so that it doesn't take over your garden. A lot of people consider Epazote to be a weed, so keep that in mind. So now that the temperatures are starting to heat up here in Tucson, I'm noticing that there are a lot of volunteer Epazote plants in my garden. I'll show you, I've got some rutabagas planted in the stock tank next to where the container was last year, and there are all these volunteer plants coming up. I planted mine in a semi-shady spot and it did really well. I had it in a wooden flower pot, kind of like a crate, and it did just fine. As long as it has well-draining, fertile soil, you'll get lots of Epazote for the season. So I'm in my little corner next to my shed, and it's a pretty moist corner because the gutter from up above the shed just kind of empties out onto the ground right here. That's not ideal, but it makes for a really good sheltered spot for growing certain things certain times of year, and the Epazote really likes this spot. This is the remains of the Epazote from last year. It just dried and stayed there all winter, which is probably why I have Epazote coming up everywhere. The wind and rain and everything during the winter season sprinkled those seeds all over the place, and the stock tank that's right next to the pot now has tons of Epazote volunteers everywhere. I think that the flavor becomes a lot more intense as the flowers begin to form. It becomes really strong, and so I like to harvest it before the flowers start to form while it's still relatively short. So what I do is I just pick the little branches and stems of the Epazote and I take it inside and wash it and strip the leaves off of those stems, put it in my dehydrator and let it dry. Once it's dry, I'll put it in a jar and I'll store it inside, and then I can use that to cook with during the fall and winter, and I have Epazote all year long. In the spring I have Epazote fresh, and in the late summer, fall, and winter I can use dried Epazote, and I like them equally well. I've never found Epazote in the grocery store where I shop. That may be different for you. I live in the Tucson area, and so I would think that I would have a better chance here of finding it in the store than other places, but you never know. Maybe I'm not shopping in the right place. I got my seeds from the Pima County Seed Library. The Pima County Library has a great seed library program, and most of the branches in Tucson have seeds available for free. All you have to do is use your library card and check those out, and the only ask is that you donate seeds back later on from your own garden so that they can keep the seed giving going. If you're local to Pima County, try finding some seeds at your local branch right now. You can also go to their website. They have listings of what seeds are available right now so that you can check those out right from the comfort of your own home. In fact, I may harvest some of this dried seed and donate that to the Pima County Library myself. I hope that you try out this unique and flavorful herb in your own garden. Until next time, happy gardening.